Alright, this is John Colo with growingyourgreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you. I'm glad to be sharing this one with you. I'm actually on a field trip. I'm here in a business park in front of a warehouse building. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go to this place right here. It's actually called Urban MicroGreens, your local hydroponic farm. So what they're doing here inside this warehouse building is growing the most nutrient-dense foods in all of Las Vegas. They're growing little microgreens. And if they could grow microgreens in a warehouse, you could surely do it in your home. But just think about the application of microgreens. Now they could grow microgreens in skyscrapers. I mean, wherever there's some light, you can grow some microgreens. And today, we're gonna show you exactly how they do it here and actually share with you guys how you can grow it at home as well. So let's head into Urban MicroGreens and show you guys how they're growing. So now we're inside the Urban MicroGreens and we're gonna check out their warehouse, which is where they're growing all the microgreens. I mean, this is a production facility. They produce 1,000 trays a month. That's a lot of microgreens out to the local Las Vegas area to farmers markets. So they, go to the Fresh 52 farmers markets. They also sell directly to some restaurants in town. So they grow a lot of nutrient-dense foods here in this warehouse that we're gonna check out in a second. So now is the moment you guys have been waiting for. Let's check out this warehouse and see how they're growing inside, because if they could do it in a warehouse, you could do it in your own kitchen. All right, so now this is the warehouse, and as you can see, they just have a whole bunch of lights, and it might be blinding for the camera for a second, but they have a light cycle of 19 hours on and 5 hours off. So these guys get a lot of light so that they can grow really fast. As you can see, there's just racks and racks and racks of different microgreens growing. Now, this warehouse is only about 1,000 square feet, so this is like the perfect size to keep the temperature ideal without even using air conditioning here in Las Vegas. They have a swamp cooler they use in the summertime to keep it cool, and then in the wintertime, it's pretty much an unheated warehouse except for the heat, small amounts of heat put out by the lights. Let's talk about the lighting for a second. They're actually using the full spectrum lights. This is 6500K lights. These are T8s in standard fixtures. So, you don't have to get any special kind of lights. Just go down to your local Home Depot and get some standard shop lights and, get some really good lights there. You'll save some money instead of trying to buy some expensive lights that, may grow a little bit better and faster, but, it's definitely good to save some money too. So any old lights will work. As you can see, they just got the 4-foot lights, and they just got these wooden shelves here made out of 2x4s and plywood here, which are available at any Home Depot or Lowe's, so you could literally build a setup like this anywhere you live. And they're just deep enough to have these flats in this one section here. And each 8-foot section of light can hold about 8 flats. And this will produce a lot of microgreens. Right here, we're looking at some beautiful amaranth microgreens. So yes, you can grow amaranth out in your garden to eat. But when growing the microgreens, one of the cool things is when you grow them in the microgreen state, they're even more nutritious than eating the regular vegetables. Now, I always promote that you guys eat your greens. I mean, after all, my channel is called Growing Your Greens, but how about growing some microgreens? These guys can be minimum 4 times more nutritious, but up to 40 times more nutritious than even the big ones. But that being said, you got to grow a lot of these to, get even a sufficient amount of calories in you. But they are great to spice up your salad, add to soups, and add to other recipes in your kitchen to ramp up the nutrition in there. Next, I want to show you guys actually how they're growing here. This is the secondary stage where they're actually growing them to fruition or to micro sproutation. And this whole process only takes 10 to 14 days. And this is the second half. The first half is actually when they're sprouting the seeds, and let's show you their area where they're sprouting the seeds in complete darkness. All right, so now we're going to take a look at stage number 1 of how these microgreens turn into microgreens. Before they're microgreens, they're actually sprouts. And I know what you guys might be thinking, hey John, aren't sprouts good for us? Well, that's as long as the sprouts are, safe to eat. There have been recently recalls with sprouts, and I don't exactly know why that happens. It's probably because the seed stock is infested. But here, with the microgreens, you're not going to have the same problems with these microgreens grown hydroponically. Because, a lot of the challenges with sprouts is that you eat the roots, the seeds and all, and in the microgreens, you're actually clipping the tops off, so there's no bacteria in the roots. So the first stage is right over here. You can see we have all these flats like you just saw, but the flats are now covered. There's actually 2 flats. The top of the flat is actually providing the darkness for the bottom, it's also keeping the humidity in the proper range for the sprouts that are now starting to germinate. So these sprouts are seeded on the growing medium, and then they're watered, and then as you can see, they're starting to sprout already. Now what happens is these are covered because guess what? In nature, you know, plants need to be covered. They need to be in the dark to sprout properly. And so they cover these guys. And what they do after they got the medium seeded, they water it, and not too much water because water begets mold. If it's too wet, it wants to be just moist but not sopping wet, no standing water. Then they plant it, and then they're going to basically mist it and spray it like twice a day. Maybe 2 sprays on the tray and 2 sprays up on the top. Now they're spraying the top actually to keep the moisture level proper because you know you don't want these seeds drying out, then they're not going to produce. Once again, this place is producing like 1,000 trays a month, and each tray, you know, on average produces about 4 ounces of the microgreens. So that's definitely a lot of microgreens. 250 pounds are coming out of this small 1,000 square foot warehouse. So, you know, if they're doing it here in large volume, you could easily grow, you know, just a few trays in your home to supplement, you know, the greens you're eating at home, to have some of the best greens you could eat. So next, we're gonna go ahead and set these guys back down. And what they do to keep track of all these, because they have so many different flats growing, they have a piece of tape on here. So they put the abbreviations on here and the date it was started. So the RG stands for Red Giant, and that's Red Giant Mustard, and it was start on the 7th. Today is currently the 11th, so this is going to be in here for maybe a couple more days before they're ready to take out and put it under the lighting. So then they'll start actually growing more and actually green up and create the chlorophyll. I guess next I want to take a look more at some of the different varieties of microgreens that they're growing here. So you guys saw how the seeds sprout. Once they're sprouted, they get to go underneath the lights. They get the lights so that they can start to green up. And once again, these guys take about 10 to 14 days on average, and you know, some things take a little bit longer, but on average, that's how long they take. And I want to share with you guys the varieties of microgreens you can grow. There's so many different kinds. Actually, matter of fact, here they're in production on 24 different kinds of different microgreens throughout the year. At this time, right now, they have actually 15 different varieties. So now I'm going to share with you some of those. Here's some microgreen bok choy, and maybe I'll even try a little bit and share with you guys how they taste. Now, I love bok choy. Bok choy is one of my favorite Asian greens. Wow. And you'll notice when eating the microgreens, like the flavor is much more intense than any bok choy that you have ever tasted. And that's one of the things they work on here, is to, you know, get the maximum taste sensations in your mouth. But also, when there's more taste sensations, guess what? There's also more nutrition in it for you. So, I mean, a lot of the chefs that, you know, buy from the urban hydro greens here, they want the best flavor. And with the microgreens, you're going to get the best flavor. So those bok choy greens were really good. Next, we're going to go to the next tray here. This is actually the broccoli. And the broccoli microgreens are probably one of the most nutrient-dense microgreens are growing here. If you can only grow one microgreen, I suggest you guys grow broccoli. It grows very fast. It grows very full. And also, there's a lot of research on the broccoli sprouts. And if it's in the sprouts, it's, guess what? It's also in the microgreens, and probably even in higher concentrations. These organosulfur compounds that they have shown to be helpful in fighting things like cancer. So, you know, why wait until you get cancer to eat some broccoli sprouts? Why don't you eat it now and disease-proof yourself? So besides the broccoli, which they have a whole bunch growing, they got something like this stuff right here. They got the blue curly kale. So here's some kale microgreens here. Literally, what you're going to see is that most of the cruciferous vegetables, you know, the broccoli, the kale, the cauliflower, kohlrabi, those guys actually do really well in the microgreens climate or situation because they're generally fast growers. Over here we got another really good microgreen. This is actually the beets, and I want to show you guys actually the cool colors of the beets. So check out the cool like pink reds. It's almost like a fluorescent color if you're seeing this in person. I don't know if you could see that on the camera, but you know what? I want to encourage you guys to always eat your foods of color. Every different color, different phytochemicals in there for you that are gonna, you know, be really nutritious for you and feed all the trillions of cells in your body. Over here we got another cool one. This is actually some mustard greens. You can kind of see they got the purple tops on there. Here we got some broccoli. And I want to show you guys the comparison in broccoli. So they're using two primary growing mediums here. They got these guys here, which are the sterile grow pads. And you can see the roots basically grow through the grow pads to the bottom. And you can see how much water is actually in here. And check it out. There's no pooling water. You want it moist, but not too much water. Too much water will cause too much mold. And guess what? If your plants don't have enough water, they're not going to be living too much longer. And these guys were started on the 31st. And these guys were started broccoli on the 4th. But instead of using the sterile grow pads, they're using a coconut core medium. And you could see the difference in how much fuller this is and how much more vibrant these guys are, you know, in actually less time in growth. The reason why they use two different growing mediums is because they'd like to do a lot of experimentation here and find out which is going to grow the best under different situations. The main reason for the sterile growing pads is because it makes harvesting a lot easier. With the coconut core, you know, you got to get the core off the microgreens when they're going to sell it. But if you're growing at home, might be really good to use the coconut core. It's just going to grow a lot more vibrant. Plus, the coconut core is more of a renewable resource. Once you're done using it for your microgreens once, you want to take it out and put it in your garden. You do not want to be reusing your growing mediums. Unfortunately, on the sterile growing pads, you know, you're going to have to basically toss these out. They're not really recyclable. So the next thing I want to talk about is the temperature. You can see we got a thermometer here and humidity meter here. And it's very important to have the right temperature for your babies that are growing. If you don't have the right temperature, they're going to either stop growth, like at 90 degrees, they don't like the hot weather too much, they pretty much stop growth and not too much happens. Or if it's too cold, they're not going to be growing well. The optimal range is probably between like, I don't know, 70 to 80 degrees would probably be a really nice range that your microgreens are going to have to grow the best. And guess what? Most of you guys are hopefully keeping your house between 70 and 80 in the winter time. So that's a perfect temperature to be growing your microgreens in the same climate or temperature that you guys like. Now on the humidity, you know, mainly most humidities will be fine. The main thing is that with high humidities, it may cause more mold growth because, you know, it's just too wet. So you don't really have to control your humidity, but you want to pay attention to it. If you're in a high humidity area, you might want to add a few fans to get some air circulation, because air circulation will actually lower your incidences of mold growth. But guess what? If there's too much water, there's going to be mold growth no matter how many fans you put on it. Next, I want to share with you guys how they have the lights set up here. They just got some standard appliance timers. These are the same appliance timers that you'll use like if you're on vacation during Christmas, or, you know, to put your Christmas tree lights on or off. I mean, they're available for like $5 to $10. And they have this on a cycle, 19 hours on and 5 hours off. So it's just really simple. They got this all plugged into the strip here, all the identical settings, and all these lights come on and come off every single day because the plants need the light to photosynthesize to create the nutrition in the plant. Now, one of the next things I want to talk to you guys about that's very important is actually, you know, when to harvest your microgreens. Because, you know, what happens is how these microgreens are able to grow is because the seeds are packets or little packets of nutrition, and they have enough nutrition in the in itself to prolong and grow the seed for a certain amount of time. After that time, then you get nutrient degradation and also plant degradation, because now the plants are mature enough that they want to, you know, send their roots out and get nutrition in the roots. And because they're growing hydroponically here and without any nutrients, just literally in water and the seeds basically, the plants are going to have the opportunity to uptake any nutrients. So I want to show you guys next what happens if you let your microgreens go on and grow too long without harvesting them. So here's some radish that has been planted and started on the 23rd. So these are about 3 weeks old. And as you can see, these are not looking too healthy. They're like kind of getting yellowish, you know, leaves, and they're kind of turning like a lighter green color. And that's because now these plants are so mature after 3 weeks that they're wanting to pull up nutrients, you know, from the ground, if they're in the ground. But they're not able to because they're just, you know, getting only the water. So at this point, you know, for the commercial purposes, this tray is going to be composted. It's out of here. It's not a viable product to sell. So you want to, you know, be sure to harvest your microgreens at the right stage. Let's take a look next door. Now these radishes, believe it or not, are the same radishes. And I want to show you guys the difference in the color. Look at the difference in color. These are nice and green. The nutrients are still being pulled up from the seed and not yet from the roots. These are also getting their second set of leaves here. So you also want to harvest your microgreens before your second set of leaves for the most nutrition. Now, one of the interesting things about the microgreens is that, they contain more nutrients than the plant themselves. So take, for example, broccoli. 1 ounce of microgreens is said to have the equivalent of nutrition in 1.5 pounds of the broccoli florets. So, I always encourage you guys to eat the most nutrient-dense foods as possible, and by growing your own microgreens or buying at a place like Urban Hydrogreens, you'll be assured some of the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. And after all, I hope you're eating for nutrients and not just the calories, because, most people eat empty calories, or what I consider junk food. Things like McDonald's and packaged foods. If you look on the nutrition label, it'll be very high in calories, but all the nutrition, like the vitamins and the minerals and the phytochemicals, they're all zero or next to zero. With these guys, it's very low calories, but the most nutrition. And that's what I think we need in our society today, is to be eating nutrient-dense foods instead of calorie-dense foods. You'll be a lot healthier and also, be at your proper weight. All right, so you guys might be wondering, is it really easy to grow these microgreens? I mean, they sound really good, and I think you guys should grow them because you could grow them literally in your house. And, it's really easy to get set up and start growing these things. So the next thing I'm going to cover is actually how you guys can grow it at home. The first step, really important, is the lighting. It's very important you get the proper lighting, and guess what? This lighting is not expensive, people. This is a Lights of America shop light from Walmart. It's about 12 bucks. And you can see here, it's got two 4-foot fluorescent tubes. And if you're asking, John, what kind of tubes do I get? Well, guess what? I got them right here so you guys can see. This is the Sylvania Daylight 6500K, 2700 lumens, 32 watts, 24,000 hours, 75 CRI, and 6500K, 48-inch, 32 watts. So these are the lights you're going to want to get, and you can get these at like a local Lowe's or Home Depot store. You buy them in this pack here. You're going to save a little bit money than buying them by the singles. So that's the lighting. So the lighting is one of the things you'll need. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need all the proper equipment. So what I'm going to do next is actually give you guys a lesson on how you could get this kit that has the seeds and everything you need to grow to start growing your own microgreens at home. So let's go ahead and show you the kit and show you guys how to grow some microgreens. So now we're in the area of Urban Hydrogreens, where they give classes to teach people how to grow the microgreens. They give usually 2 classes a month, and they have small class sizes from 6 to 8 people where you can learn how to grow your own microgreens at home if you're anywhere in the Las Vegas area. Now you'll get a warehouse tour. They'll show you how to grow. They'll even set you up with a little grow kit and share with you guys how to use it. If you're not able to come to Urban Hydrogreens to get your own personal class, I'm going to share with you guys actually a kit that you can buy online that comes in this box here, so you can start growing some microgreens in your home. So let's go ahead and open up this box and show you guys what this kit includes. So this is the kit that you'll get actually sent to you. So the first thing, once you open the kit, you're going to get some laminated instructions. So this first one is very valuable because besides just saying hydroponic microgreens growing kit on the back, this is what's really important. This is actually all these different pictures here, 7 different pictures, show you day by day what your seed should look like when they're germinating. This is very important when you're starting so that you can know exactly what you're doing is right or not. And if not, guess what? You guys need to make some adjustments. The main thing when germinating your seeds is not to put too much water and not to put too little water. The water needs to be just right, like Goldilocks' porridge. So the next thing you're going to get in this kit is some instructions here, some printed instructions with some definitions, materials, and 7 simple step-by-step instructions that'll explain to you guys how to grow the microgreens in this kit. In addition, it has troubleshooting and tips. And this is actually very important. If you're not doing something right, you need to figure out what's going on and correct that so that your microgreens can grow healthfully and feed your body. Let's see here. So there's standard troubleshooting tips that may help you, and also it shares with you some uses on how you can use some of the microgreens. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you guys some of my uses for the microgreens. So anyways, next in the kit, what you're going to get is these guys right here. These are actually called pH test strips. These are actually a very important component of the tip. I didn't talk about it earlier, but it's very important that the water you're using for growing the microgreens are in the proper pH range. If your pH is not in the right range, your microgreens will not flourish and grow as quickly or grow as well as you'd like them, or how they're doing here anyways. So the pH they recommend for growing the microgreens is around 6 on the pH scale. Most standard city waters may be around 8, so you're going to have to adjust that down, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But with the pH papers, you can assure yourself that you're going to have the right pH in the water. The next thing you're going to get is a little squirt bottle, a little sprayer bottle, and this is actually very important to mist your microgreens when they're in the germination stage. You need to give them just the right amount of water. So with this, you're going to be able to mist them and not provide too much water for your microgreens. In addition, you're going to get the seeds, and normally this kit would come with 4 seeds, but because you guys are growing your greens, viewers, I've have them include an extra seed packet here. So each of these seed packets will, in this size, will grow 2 half-size trays. In the near future, they will actually just give you 10 individual packets, and each packet will seed 1 tray. So this kit will seed a total of 10 trays. Normally the kit only seeds 8 trays. So the seeds that are going to be included with this kit are the blue curled kale, the tot soy, and besides using these for microgreens, you could hold a few seeds back and actually plant them out in your garden as well, because they will grow. Next, we got the Crimson Tide mustard, and this is actually some of the mustard I showed you guys earlier. It has a nice purple color to it. In addition, we got the broccoli seeds, which is my favorite microgreens, most nutrient dense. And finally, we got a radish blend, and this is the blend I'd actually encourage you guys to start with first. Radishes actually start and grow really fast. Aside from that, you'll have these sterile growing mediums, so you got enough to do 10 half trays. You're also going to get 10 of the growing mediums to get your growing in. And finally, the last 2 components of the kit are the half-size trays. So these are the half-size trays in this kit. You can also purchase additional trays, the sterile growing mediums, and seeds as well from the Urban Hydro Green. So the full-size trays would be this size, but in this kit, we're just doing that half-size trays, and this is the best way to start out with if you're new into growing microgreens. So next, what I want to share with you guys is actually how to set up and start growing some of these microgreens. All right, so now we're going to use this kit to grow some microgreens. So it's really easy. So you're not going to need too much more than what's supplied in the kit. The number one thing you'll need, of course, to start any seed is some water. So you have some standard tap water here. Now I recommend you guys actually let your tap water hang out overnight to maybe dissipate some of the chlorine off, or use some filtered water if you're concerned about it, although that's not required at all. Besides the water, we need to make sure the pH of the water is proper. So what you're going to do, instead of buying some expensive pH adjuster at a hydroponic store, you get this stuff here that you may already have in your kitchen. It's just distilled white vinegar. You don't have to get any particular brand or anything, but some white vinegar. This stuff is very acidic. So by adding just a little bit, and here in Las Vegas, we need to add about 1 teaspoon to 1 gallon of water to get the pH to the level we want. So once you add the teaspoon, which we already have done, we're going to go ahead and take our pH test strips to ensure the pH is correct. So we're just going to go ahead and stick that in the water. And pH test strips are also really useful. You can actually check your pH, and there's a range of where we want to be as well. Anyways, we got this, and we're going to just go ahead and match it up to different colors and check it out. That's just about a 6, so this is going to work for us just fine. The next step is, now that we got our pH adjusted water, we're going to take our sterile growing pad right here, and all you need to do is just soak this. So to do that, we're just going to dunk it in the water, and the very important thing is, don't just pull it out and say, okay, John, I got it soaked. Look at that. That is dripping. That is soaked. We don't want it that wet. We want it just moist. Guess what? Because more water creates mold. Not going to be good. So we're just going to go ahead and wring that out. You don't want to wring it out too dry. You just want enough so that it's just no longer dripping. So I think that's a pretty good moisture. You can kind of feel the moisture in there, not dripping, good enough. Lay it in your little half tray here. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. Anybody could do it. We're gonna go ahead and move that water aside. The next thing is we're gonna need our seeds because that's what we're growing. You're gonna take a little cup here. We got a little standard plastic cup. I wish I had a red Solo cup, but this is not. And but we got the seeds here. Now, if you get this size seed packet, this contains enough for 2 half flats. If you get a smaller size Ziploc bag, then that's enough for 1 flat. So how will you know? If you get 10 individual packets, then you're gonna put all of the seeds in 1 packet into the half flat. If you get 5 of these guys, then you're only gonna use half the seeds. So what I've done is I've flicked all these seeds down at the bottom here, and it's pretty even. I'm gonna take my hand and hold half of it, about in half, and we're gonna go ahead and open the top here so that only half the seeds come out of this, and we're gonna dump them in the cup. All right, so once you got your seeds all poured out in your little cup here, this is your seed disbursement tool. So it's easier to pour them out from a cup than the little baggie there. So what we're just gonna do is we're just gonna go around and just shake these out. And the very important thing to do is you wanna get even distribution. You don't want them all bunched up. If you get your seeds bunched up, that may cause, once again, guess what? The big M, the mold, and we don't want the mold. So very important to evenly space your seeds out. Now you don't want to get too many seeds by the edges either, because that's not a good thing either. So we want to try to get them mostly, in the center and evenly distributed throughout this whole little tray. And just take your time and they're going to bounce a little bit when they go in there. So if you kind of go a little bit closer, they're not going to bounce as much and move all over. But remember, you want to get your seeds distributed evenly throughout this whole little tray. And yes, there is an art form to dispersing your seeds, and you'll get better at it over time. And I'm just going back to fill in some of the different parts where there's just not enough seeds, and just shake out just a few seeds so we get a nice even dispersal. Now, if you're OCD, this might take about a half hour. If you're not, it might take about 5 minutes, maybe just 2 minutes. I'm a little bit OCD, so it's taking me a little bit longer than a normal. Don't drop your cup. All right, so we got about a couple more seeds in the cup here, going right down. Now, I'm a bad seed spreader, man. I got a couple near the edges, so if that happens, all you're gonna do is just take it and flick it like you're flicking your loved one's ear. All right, so we got the seeds pretty well, on the little growing medium here, and the next thing is you're just gonna take a little spray bottle. And now you want to give your seeds some water. So just spray it a little bit. And once again, you just want it moist. You don't want to drench them. The next thing you're going to do is you're just going to spray the inside. Just a little bit of moisture. You want it sopping wet. If you put this upside down and it's dripping rain on you, guess what? Too much water. Don't do it. Then the next thing is we're just going to put this on. And once you got this all set up, you're going to set it in a cool place, not too hot, It doesn't need to be in the sun because obviously it's in this darkness stage. And you're just going to basically lift this up and check out your little babies twice a day. At the same time you're checking them out, you also want to give them the required nutrient, water. So once again, you're going to take 2 sprays, and you may need to use a bit more, maybe a little bit less, but not too much. I like that they give you the spray bottle so that's going to ensure you don't give them too much water. So every 12 hours, twice a day, check them out, spray them, and then let it just do its thing. And guess what? In 4 days, let me show you guys what you're gonna get. So after 4 days, it's gonna look like this. You can see there, we got these guys growing, and they're not quite green yet, but that's all right. That's because these seeds are still germinating. Some have barely germinated, some have already been growing, and some of them are actually like the tallest one's like 1 inch. That's a early bloomer there. So after 4 days, it's going to look like this. And guess what? You're going to continue just to mist it in the tray, in the top, and put it back. And you're going to leave this hanging out a couple more days until it's ready to be moved on to the next stage. So you're going to keep it like this until one of 2 things or both of these things happen. You're going to take it off and you're going to see all the seeds that you germinated about 1 inch tall. And don't be concerned if they're all still yellow, because guess what? they're in complete darkness, and you'd be yellow too if you were in darkness. But when they get under the light, they're going to have a nice tan color. Well, not actually tan. They're going to be green. So don't worry if they're still yellow in this stage. How do you know when to take them out of the darkness? Well, they need to be all 1 inch tall, or if you like pull up the matting a little bit, you'll see there'll be good roots in there. And right now there's not good roots in there because obviously we pulled that up and all the seeds are flopping all over the place. So make sure those two things happen, and we'll show you the next stage due to some camera magic. So after a total of 8 or 9 days, so in less than 2 weeks, this is what you're gonna get with this kit. You're gonna get your own microgreens to eat at home. It's gonna green up because right after it gets tall enough, you're gonna put under your lighting you got, and make sure you use the lighting. If you don't use the lighting that I recommended, if you try to do it in a sunny window or something, things aren't going to grow as fast and it may take longer. So get the proper tools to grow the food so that it grows faster, so you could be eating more of it instead of waiting longer. And the lights are not a huge investment. So yeah, these guys are going to grow up really well and really good. And once they're at this stage, you can actually just take some scissors and cut them off and use the microgreens, because the whole purpose on why you're growing them is to use them. And when I say use them, you want to eat them and get them into your body. If you are eating microgreens, what you're going to find is that they are much more digestible than the hard greens. So I don't know how many of you guys eat radish greens. I mean, I ate some for dinner last night actually, but they're very, hard tasting, like bitterish in taste. That has a strong flavor. These guys actually have a nice, delectable, delicious flavor, and these guys are nutrient packed with nutrients, much more than even the baby greens that I always encourage you guys to harvest out of your garden. Now, how else can you use these besides making a, little salad out of the microgreens? You could add these to your salad. So I'd like to make a nice salad from greens in your garden if you're growing them, and then put a dressing on, and then put, some of these on top. You could do the same with other cooked dishes, but the one thing you want to remember is you do not want to cook your microgreens. These are baby plants. If you're a baby, you wouldn't like to be cooked either. They'll wilt very fast, and then they'll no longer look attractive. And guess what? When you're heating your food, you're lowering the nutrition in your food as well. So these are best eaten raw. So besides the salads, you can also add them to soups. So I make uncooked soups in my Vitamix by literally blending up different vegetable juices, and you could blend up some microgreens in there as well. Another thing you can do is what's called green smoothies. I highly encourage you guys to drink green smoothies, whether they're made with greens out of your garden or the microgreens, and I have a few videos on that. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take some purified water, I don't know, like 4 bananas, maybe 1 or 2 frozen bananas, and a whole bunch of microgreens. I'd put maybe half this whole tray in one smoothie, and just blend it up and drink it on up. The microgreens will get blended up into small particle size and even have better absorption out of the nutrients in here than just chewing them, because most people take 2 chews and swallow. It's very important, whatever you're eating, whether they're microgreens or not, is to chew your food adequately into a mush. Because think about it, why do we feed babies baby food? Because they don't have any teeth and they need a mush. But because we have teeth, we're supposed to chew our food into a mush, every mouthful, before swallowing. But that being said, these guys are so tender they don't need to be chewed as much as the larger adult leaves of the same plants. So another way I like to use the microgreens especially is in wraps. Whether you're making a collard wrap or using some nori and some sushi, take some greens and fill it up in the wrap. I mean, use liberally. And I like to fill it up with other ingredients, roll it up, and then just eat it. So this is a great to-go food. You could take this as your lunch, for example, and sometimes I'll just eat these for dinner. Another reason for the microgreens are to add flavor elements to whatever you're creating. So say you instead of using mustard in a jar, you can get some mustard microgreens to get the same mustard bite. So what I do with some of the mustard greens is actually add those to a salad dressing to get a nice mustard flavor. Imagine a honey mustard dressing made with your own fresh microgreens. Wow, that's gonna be delicious. Those are just some of the uses of microgreens, and I'm sure you guys could come up with a lot more. But before you can even use your microgreens, you gotta start growing them yourself. So you wanna visit the Facebook page of Urban Hydro Greens, and you could order this kit, this very kit that I showed you. Once again, the Grow Your Greens only kit. Normally the kit only includes enough for 8 half trays. The Grow Your Greens kit is gonna include the seeds you saw, enough for 10 full half trays. Now you can also order additional seeds and the pads from Urban MicroGreens. But once you run out of the standard pads, what I encourage you guys to use is actually this stuff right here, some kind of coconut core. They actually offer the Wonder Soil here, and you can use the coconut core instead of the sterile growing pads. It makes harvesting a little bit more difficult. You may get some coconut core that you have to weed out, but once again, the coconut core is more renewable because once you're done using it one time, don't reuse this stuff. Once you're done using it one time to grow your microgreens, you're going to use this stuff in your garden, which will actually help hold the water in your garden. So you're going to mix this in with your compost and your soil mediums. This is especially good for a container garden. So, don't waste any of these valuable soil nutrients, at home, especially like all the base of this stuff you can actually compost as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode here at Urban MicroGreens. If you're anywhere in Las Vegas, you want to definitely come by and take one of their classes to learn in detail and get actually a factory tour and show you guys how they're actually growing here. Highly recommend their classes. If you don't want to grow your own, you could visit them at the farmers markets or give them a call or contact them through their Facebook page to order the microgreens yourself so that you'll get some of the highest nutrient-dense foods grown anywhere in the Las Vegas Valley. And finally, you want to visit their Facebook page so that you can order your own microgreens growing kit and make sure you get the Growing Your Greens special. And I'll put a link down to their Facebook page right below this video so you guys could do just that. So after watching this video, you're now fully prepared to start growing microgreens in your kitchen or in your home any time of the year. So no longer can you say, John, I can't grow, it's the winter outside, it's freezing. You can grow the guys inside all year long. They love the temperature we live, and after you grow them and eat them, you're going to feel a lot better about it as well. So once again, my name is John Kohler with GrowInYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.